someone like, Bob Litchfield kind of learned a lot of these techniques while working at Provo Canyon, which is still in operation.
Well, it's happened again.
This happened on Tuesday, and we know it was really hot that day. Hot car. Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you last in a hot car?
Facts that the heat index that day was 105 degrees.
Hot car. We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene. The whole thing had been a mystery to neighbors.
Hot car.
This is not an accident. This is pure negligence.
Yeah, it's crazy that Provo Canyon is still in operation, but being that he worked there, and I feel like he took what he learned there and he made Cross Creek. I feel like Cross Creek was probably one of the more, because it came directly from the horse's mouth, as far as, you know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's probably something to, focus on. I mean, that's more directly. That's kind of what this is about. Not necessarily about, specific survivor interviews. Although a lot of that stuff is important. I personally want to kind of get away from some of that into more of the reality of the operations behind these programs.
Do you mean like them getting shut down and then back reopened and under a different name? Or
well, yeah, because we all understand. I mean, there's so many survivor interviews, so it's no one really has any excuse in kind of saying they don't understand what happens there.
Well, not anymore. Now, like if you send your kids and you say you weren't educated about it, then that's just laziness on that parent's part. Now, so, back then I could understand it because there wasn't very much knowledge about it, but now.
Right now, it's everywhere. It's on TV. It's on, Netflix. It's all everywhere. And sometimes the message I think that comes across is, oh, here's these bad programs. Thank God they don't exist anymore. And that's kind of the message that comes across to people in the general public. Mm-hmm. So they have this understanding that, oh, this bad thing happened before this particular program, but they don't understand that that's still happening, like all around them.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about, learning about some of this stuff is like the idea of like before you actually went there, what were the promises given and what were, you and your family told about the facility and the program, because that kind of stuff is still going on with their shiny brochures and salespeople.
Honestly, I don't know that I could answer that though, because my mom, I don't know how long she knew about the program before she sent me, but I know that my knowledge of it was literally the day before I was sent. So what I was told was, it was just a place. They told me it was a school, and she also told me that there would be like counseling there, and there wasn't either one really. I mean, nobody there was qualified to be a therapist and do the things that they did. The guy that was our counselor, Garth, he was in college.
Yeah.
He wasn't even, he had no qualifications,
Right. Now, what was his name again?
Garth Lannister. Or Lassiter.
Right.
Lasate.
Right. Not the Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah, no, not Lannister. Sorry.
No,
it's Lassiter.
This is the kind of thing I'd like to do. Like right now, I'm just looking him up, right?
Yeah.
Just looking him up. And I found that, LinkedIn is a super valuable resource in looking up some of these people because they, I don't know, LinkedIn is like a broken network, basically. It's goofy, but so many people in the TTI community post up stuff. Like this guy right now, Garth Lassiter.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing now because he gives me PTSD to look at him, but so I try not to get on his page or anything. But
right.
What he was doing on top of the Cross Creek program, Cross Creek would have, and I don't even know how they got away with this or who thought it was a good idea, but some of the top girls in our class, they're really good friends of mine now, but Danny and Allison and some other people, when they were at the top tier, which was phase 6, Garth had them stay at his house. Do you know how unethical that was? And babysit his kids and do other things. And the parents were actually paying him room and board. I never made it past phase 3. So I'm not talking about me, but, he did have some of the students live in his house with him for the remainder of the time that they were in the program.
Wow. Okay.
That's super,
that's terrible. That is,
that's
it's
so
entirely unethical and borderline illegal.
Yeah.
I'm looking up, okay, cause I did look him up, Garth Lassiter, and, this is the kind of stuff that I like to do. So Garth Lassiter at this point on his LinkedIn page, I don't know how current this is necessarily, but it says that he's a program director at a place called 3 Points Center in St. George. So I'm looking up right now. I'm looking up.
Great. So he's still doing
looking him
his
up.
thing.
Yeah. Let's find out what he's doing then. I mean, that's to me, some of that kind of thing, like even if it's like during, a podcast on the fly, it says so much about who these people really are and where they came from because you know where they came from. And then if you can connect that up with what they're doing now, it sends a great warning to people to watch out for people like this. And this guy, in our case specifically. So
he also had and I'm, in my mind, it was just to teach us, I guess, but it could have not been. How the hell did he get a hold of it? But he used to show us actual drugs. He would have cocaine. He would have weed. He would have meth. He would have the bongs. He would have all this shit. And he would actually show it to us while he was talking to us about drugs.
Really?
Well, I don't think he's not a police officer. He's not, why the fuck did he have actual drugs and we're actually showing us and he keeping it in his office,
Right. Because again, in looking at his own information, it indicates that apparently he says, and this is just on, LinkedIn. So whatever, that he has a degree in social work that he earned at BYU from 86 to 92, and then from 93 to 96, a master's in social work, clinical social work from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Now, even if that's true, there's no reason at all for this guy to be hoarding drugs to use as examples in demonstrations. Yes, exactly. That's ridiculous.
Or having students live with him for free babysitting. And some of the shit that my friend told me that they would talk about was just super inappropriate.
Yeah.
He's just inappropriate. And I don't know, he's just got this really stern, he would be somebody I would avoid on the outs. He has a horrible personality. He's just a really hard person,
Right. Well, apparently he's still at it at this place called 3 Points Academy.
I feel bad for anybody who's under him.
Yeah.
His methods are really crazy. And, I don't know.
Well, this is kind of, why we do this, to find out where these people went and if it's appropriate, call them out on it because, like I said, we all know the stories about what happens in these facilities. And why is this other new one or whatever the case is, 3 Points Academy any different? They're all the same.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at their website right now, it says we can help your adopted teen get back on track. Now they're even, specializing in this like niche where they're targeting parents of children, that they've adopted and saying, hey, new parents of adopted children. If you need help, understanding like how to manage being a parent, send your kid here and we'll fix them for you.
Yeah, that's so sad, really, because you think about the kind of life an orphan has had or somebody that's in the system to be adopted.
Right.
And usually they do have behavior problems because they've had such a horrible life. To turn around and send them to this kind of place that's not regulated. There is no regulation for these places.
No, and the way they get around that is they call themselves different things. Like in this case, they're calling themselves a school. In some cases, they designate themselves as like rehab facilities, which are under kind of a different structure. And sometimes they combine the two vaguely, and it doesn't have any kind of meaningful oversight at all. In fact, a lot of the governing bodies, like NATSAP, the national, I forget what it's like they were very closely associated with the WWASP programs, the WASP programs. And even today, if you look at the board of directors of the so-called oversight committees and governing bodies that are supposed to be regulating places like Provo, Cross Creek, on, they're the owners of other facilities. They're regulating themselves and calling it oversight.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
And that was part of the reason that that bill that Paris Hilton was behind was important.
Did you know that Kat Von D was also a student of these things?
I had not, but have you heard that Earl Sweatshirt was also a student of these things?
No,
the
I
rapper.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one either.
Yeah.
Look up Kat Von D's story when you have a chance, okay?
I will. Okay. It's really interesting. The interview I did with a lady named Michelle the other day, I initially it was going to be about her creative arts stuff, and I kind of offhandedly asked her about if she knew anything about, and I used the abbreviation TTI. And she said, no, what's that? And I said, the troubled teen industry. And then immediately the whole basis of our conversation turned into the fact that she was also at one of these places. It's really more widespread than people might think. And sometimes people don't even realize that they're, what we would call survivors.
Yeah.
They just
I completely understand that. Like, I was shocked when the movement started. I was shocked to hear Paris Hilton had experienced something like I had. I was shocked when it just took off like wildfire, Yeah. And to really hear how many people have been affected, Yeah,
it's it's both like tragic and also like encouraging, because. Who wants to hear about another person having to go through this? And then, cause it brings back all kinds of traumatic memories and,
It sure did. 2020 was a really hard year for so many different reasons, but that was a hard year. That was a hard year for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. So, I guess, I don't know, maybe this is, enough of a addition to kind of clarify more of what you wanted to say yesterday. I don't know if there's anything additional, because I think you're somewhat wrong about yesterday's interview. I think even though it was kind of a bit all over the place,
it kind of fell off, and I didn't really necessarily clarify that I am doing okay today.
Oh well, sure.
But it wasn't for any anybody's help, and it damn sure wasn't for the program. Like, I've done this all on my own, and that's like most of the survivors had to actually do that. They had to pick themselves up and figure it out.
Right. Right. So maybe, maybe for a few minutes to kind of get to that point, which you didn't.
No, I just didn't want it to sound so victimized, because it is, but that's not the message I was trying to get out. I wasn't trying to get out that I was victimized. I was trying to get out that nobody should send their kid there,
Oh, for sure. I mean, the fact that, unfortunately, it is kind of, self-centered thing to talk about because you're the one who went through all that stuff. So it's hard to to disassociate what you went through and not, and being kind of, feeling like, well, let me put it this way. It's almost like the programming that was given to you back then about feeling guilty about whatever it was that you were going through kind of comes back. This whole idea of shame regarding having been there at all.
Well, and that shame that they pound into your head, it just follows you for the rest of your life. And you have to literally, I can't tell you how many times a day I have to sit there and be like, you didn't do anything. Stop it. Have to sit there and have a conversation with myself about how I'm not a piece of shit, you know?
Right. And although this isn't, therapy, I think that, relating this stuff to just kind of the world, somewhat anonymously telling your story is, really, therapeutic because it kind of gets stuff off your chest that can kind of unburden your thoughts a bit.
Yeah.
And also you can, what we're doing is letting other people know that we relate to these hidden, unspoken experiences that you've been through. The particulars may be different, but the environment and the whole structure and all of the, different kinds of coercion and manipulation are all the same,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also, the real value, which again ties into this whole idea of saying, hey, parents and professionals and social workers, really just don't do it. Don't send your kids to these places. Think of other options.
Yeah. And then my mom listens to it and she came back with, "Oh, you remember how you ran away for 10 days? And I was like, Mom, it was 24 hours. It was literally 24 hours. And she's like, "Oh no, it was more than one day." And I was like, "It literally wasn't,
Right. Well, but even, granted, but even so,
I guess the part where I said she had a lot of problems, she didn't like to hear that. She's like, "Don't you remember when you ran away for 10 days?
It's almost like,
"No, Mom."
It's almost like, oh, you ran away. Okay. Let me double down on that. Like, what?
Yeah,
wait, what?
So
no,
I guess
Mom,
she was trying to justify why in the first place.
Didn't you want me back? Goodness. Right. Well, I don't know, cause I found, without getting into a bunch of my personal stuff too, sometimes I think that the trauma I've endured has kind of informed, helping people in their own recovery and things like that too. And just kind of
and
knowing.
I'm so sorry for sounding dismissive yesterday. When I was listening back on it, I was like, yeah, so you were part of Scientology. Okay, moving on.
No, I
am so sorry.
I cut a lot of that stuff out. I cut a big portion.
So sorry though. I wasn't trying to be like, yeah, that's not important. Moving on. It's important.
No, because see, I deal with the same kind of thing that you're talking about in talking about my own stuff, because then I feel silly and I feel weird and I feel like, holy shit, no one's going to really get this at all. Because, even during these conversations that will be like published, the people, the relatively small audience that listens to this, most of them probably can relate, but then there are others who have no basis of understanding like what we're talking about.
Right.
And for them, it's going to be like foreign and weird, but that's really the audience. It's not really fellow survivors because we all know our own stories.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. So I think, a lot of times we have to kind of get over ourselves and like, not be so, afraid that we're going to sound like, we're insane when we're talking about all this stuff that we went through because it's real.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think that parents should put their children in places that do more damage than good. They're already thinking of putting them there because of some problems that they're having. And I just wanted them to know that they'll definitely have more problems when they come out.
Right. So, that was one of the other things that we were talking about too. I was speculating a few weeks ago about the idea because I had never really read up on it, but the idea of like, say, a family with a mom and a dad, maybe siblings, deciding to send one of their children away because of disruption in the house, and they think that that's going to solve it. So many stories that I've heard about this kind of thing have resulted in the total dissolution of the entire family.
Yes.
Like divorce, and estrangement from other children who either agree or disagree with the decisions, and a whole bunch of like additional problems that were never really considered, right? Like
I don't have a relationship with my sisters. I don't have a relationship with my family. Literally the only people that I talk to is my mom when we're not fighting, and my grandmother, who's always been on my side. Literally, I am estranged from every single person as well. So
right. So it's another really important factor for people to think about. That
it is.
That you deciding to send your child to wherever you're sending them to is more likely to result in the destruction of your family than helping it.
Yeah, but at least that is actually out there now. It's nice that is getting out there, and I appreciate your podcast and anything that'll get that to the general public. At least people now pretty much will really have an option versus just being duped into doing it. So that makes the programs have to work harder. It's not as easy to get people now to be sent there. So
right. Anything that we can do to like stop the flow of money to their accounts is what we really want to do. I mean,
didn't Hell Camp make you mad when the ex-wife was crying about having to go to work at Sears? I was like, oh my God, I want to kill this person.
I didn't watch it.
Oh, you didn't watch it?
No, I watched the first 2 episodes of Let Us Pray. Did you watch that on?
I didn't watch that one. I watched Hell Camp. I didn't watch that one, but I'm going to check it out. Yeah.
I just had to stop. I mean, after a certain point, like, especially because of all the, both my own experiences and also talking to so many people, like at a certain point, I get it. And then it just becomes kind of, then I start feeling weird about it as though it's like entertainment. And then I get kind of squeamish about it, because I start thinking about, okay, who's benefiting from this? And then I get all like wrapped up in like, wanting to investigate the production company.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because who's profiting? Are the survivors being really benefited? Stuff like that. Like, the young lady who died,
in Provo Canyon?
No, at, Challenger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, I mean, I don't know. I didn't look into it, but I would really, really hope that her family.
They were on the show.
No, but I hope they gain some financial benefit, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I hope so too. they were being interviewed on the show, so I'm assuming they must have got something. So,
or in other cases, like, because there were lawsuits that came years ago regarding that, so they may have already been compensated in some way. But there are other programs, like the one I was talking about, Let Us Pray, and just in general, if there are like documentaries made about this kind of thing, I would hope that a portion of any profits made or whatever the cases would go to, help other survivors, or
I hope so too.
Or to even help to get the word out about, not sending your children to places that are still run by either the same people or by, people that had these original folks as mentors. Because that's, the Litchfields, like we said, are still very much out there, and they're still doing it. And you may not know the names of either. This is crazy too to me, that these people changed their own names.
Yeah, to continue to.
They changed their own names legally so that they can continue to operate these facilities under a wide variety of different circumstances.
Yeah, and you would think that if you got shut down one time because it's unethical or whatever the reasoning, that they succeeded in shutting you down, that they would have some sort of law or something in place where they couldn't just change their name and open up under a different, name and continue on. Like, I just don't see the point in shutting them down if that was,
Exactly. Changing your name doesn't turn you into a different person.
Yeah. Why is there no follow-up with after getting shut down? Why is there no follow-up? Like, if somebody is accused of child abuse, and, I don't know in different states, but if they're accused of child abuse and it's taken to court and everything and it's put against you, you're not allowed to work somewhere where you can abuse children again, or
Right,
I just don't understand why.
It just makes me wonder, like, is there some crazy loophole that, like, you can change your name?
Who knows?
Like, seriously, you can change your name to kind of sort of hide? That's crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
Wow. Well, that's like a whole other rabbit hole to dive into. I think this, like, half hour of, like, kind of, putting a bookend on what we spoke about yesterday was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. You feel better about it all? Like, kind of?
Yeah, I do.
Good. Because that's kind of the whole idea. Is, is to being able to say, hey, everybody, don't fucking send your kid here.
I mean, I just feel like, is anybody going to get anything out of that story from me, though? Like, other than, sad story, like.
Well, okay, sure. Now, I think that all the time. I mean, like I said, I've been doing these kinds of specific, like, interviews and on a podcast for the last, like, 5 years. And oftentimes I think, well, this is just going out into the void. I've got, like, great. Like, our highest, viewed video has, like, like 4,000 views, which is just, like, pathetic in the whole scheme of things. And then someone reaches out and says, hey, thank you. And that's it. That's all I need. Like, that's enough, because we don't get to decide who hears this. And there are people out there in the world that will never know of, who heard us talking and have gained something from. I promise. Like, that's just the way that, the world works. If you communicate stuff, there are people out in the world who will say, oh, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
And you may never know. And that's cool. That's okay.
True.
And maybe that's a part of the beauty of it too. It's like, okay, we're going to send this little message in a bottle out into the world about, our own specific experiences.
Yeah.
And, there are, 1 billion people who have the opportunity to maybe hear this. And maybe 10 people will listen. And maybe one will make an impact on it. We don't know.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I agree.
Good. Okay. Well, I guess that's probably good enough then, And then hopefully the next interview I have is going to be totally unrelated to the troubled teen industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to talk about all kinds of interesting things, and I'm especially interested in what a lot of survivors do with their lives, on a creative basis, if that's a thing, what are your passions? Like, I don't want to really get into that with you right now, but that whole idea of what are the things that's, that enrich your life and the things that you love doing or, that make a difference. Yeah. Like, I think this is something that I think really makes a difference in people's lives. And it's something that I'm really passionate about doing and will continue to do, whether it, reaches, 1 million people or not.
I think it's really cool that you're doing this.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I keep doing it, because I meet amazing people like you. It's very cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to do a podcast again, or if you want me to just sit in and chime in or whatever, I'll help you. Okay.
If this is something that you are interested in doing, on a podcast kind of basis where we have all kinds of different topics that come up.
Yeah.
I would love a strong female voice, which is something that I think is missing in a lot of cases in podcast media.
Nice.
So yeah, we can get this going in some fashion, as the year progresses and we figure out, things and how we want to present ourselves and all that good stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
All right. Well,
thanks for talking to me about all that and making me feel a little better about it.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jay Little, in quotes.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks, Marcus.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Well, it's happened again.
This happened on Tuesday, and we know it was really hot that day. Hot car. Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you last in a hot car?
Facts that the heat index that day was 105 degrees.
Hot car. We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene. The whole thing had been a mystery to neighbors.
Hot car.
This is not an accident. This is pure negligence.